I can pretty much kick things off for the night. I might get a little ranty on this one. We're gonna start off hot. We're starting off with what is it? Biggest flop. Wait a second here.
That's hella easy.
Well, I thought that, right? I thought
That's
biggest
cake.
flop
That is easy.
would be easy. And I started to think of, because I thought it would be easy to say, like, hey, like Jedi Survivor, man, it's a flop. I mean, but is it? It depends on what you think about as a flop. And then I thought I had my answer, and I thought it was going to be Mortal Kombat 1. Because I was like, it's something that you said last night in our conversation resonated. It was like, after the first month, that game dropped off the face of the earth. And I'm like, that's usually not the thing with Mortal Kombat games. And it was like, does that qualify as a flop? Potentially.
Yes.
Then, I don't disagree. But then I was like, well, let's just check the numbers. And apparently it's on pace to sell as much as MK11 did, which, it is what it is. And then I started thinking about it, and I said, what's the biggest flop for me personally? Because I think that's what this is about. This is about our personal choices. We'll each take turns and make that decision. And, then we can always discuss and debate whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But personally for me, might take people for a loop. Party animals.
Oh, wow.
Party animals to me is the biggest flop of this
there you go.
year.
I forgot about it.
And the
So
reason
right.
being exactly like Despair said. This game had such potential to be the biggest casual normie game that was out there. They released the demo right during the craze of the pandemic gaming, where we needed co-op gaming at its most.
Yeah, we had Fall Guys, Among Us, all that shit going
Fall
on.
Guys, Among Us, all of it was going on, and it was peak popularity for this type of game. This was a game that came out where we could actually fuck up our friends. We could beat them up, actually. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was definitely a pandemic game.
It made it better. It was a pandemic game, and they dropped a demo on us, and everyone loved it. And then they literally went radio silent for about 2 years. Said, "Hey, we got an agreement, or we got funding to be able to publish it on other platforms aside from PC." You know what? In retrospect, you guys should have just dropped the game on PC in early access right then and there, and then went about your business, because this game dropped this year, and that's why I say it's the biggest flop. The literal drop in the bucket. We played it 1 week. After that, pretty much dead.
When was that first beta? 2020?
2020. Yep. It's been a long time.
That's why it flopped. That's why nobody cared. It took too long.
Sorry. That's why it's my biggest flop. That's what I settled on.
Yeah. And just to tag on what you said, like, it's not necessarily a bad game, quote unquote, you know what I mean? But like, I think this is the game that did the most emotional damage to us, because
yeah, absolutely.
Just because like we were so, you should have seen us like 3 years ago. We were so excited to play this game and blah, blah, blah. And then like, I felt like the amount of time that we waited, what we got in return, for me, it was just like, you guys could have just released the game 3 years ago.
Yeah, for real.
And
like, it didn't even seem any different. Like,
nope.
Same shit.
Dude, I was tweeting the devs directly every major event, Party Animals release date, when I drunk tweet a lot too.
Everybody was,
and I was doing that. Shout outs. Listen, you guys need to thank me for having that daily missions in COD available to you when you hit pause, because that was my suggestion on a drunk tweet. I could pull it up too, but that's what I mean. Like, they should have released it, just released it in early access. We live in a different age now, where on PC, that's not going to affect your long-term sales ultimately, right? Like,
yeah,
if people are going to play on this console, hey.
I don't really know about everyone else, but personally, if you really, it's hard for games like that to survive nowadays. Like, the reason why that should have came out when it initially was supposed to come out is because games like that are the kind of games all the homies got to be on at the same time, right? Everybody got to be down to play. Everybody got to be in the mood. Like, the pandemic is fucking over, right? Nobody's like, we had time. Like, we already knew we were all on every single night, same time every night, right? Because pandemic, everybody's at home. Now. We was chilling. Yeah, like, bro, we was playing Mario Kart literally every night during the pandemic,
Every
bro.
night,
It
bro.
got to a point where I was like, damn, this might be my favorite game of all time. Because we played that game like every night. So like everyone had time, right? It was always jumping in Discord chat during the pandemic. Everybody was in here every single night. That's the kind of environment a game like that thrives in, right? Not now where everyone's back to doing their shit. Everyone's back to doing whatever it is that they do. Like, you'd be lucky if you can get everybody to meet up once a week, right?
Oh,
So like,
so unfortunate.
I don't know, man. They missed the perfect opportunity. The game is fun. It's a fun ass game. I'm not gonna sit here and shit on the game, but it's just the time passed already.
No, yeah,
Like,
and let me be clear, like that's the thing. Like to me, biggest flop. Maybe I overthought it, but to me, biggest flop wasn't necessarily like the quality of the game, which is why I was kind of going in the direction of
It's just-
Jedi
it's just
Survivor. I was like, it's not the
how little we
quality. It's
actually
just
cared
like,
about it.
yeah, it's just like the game dropped and they just fucking fumbled. The devs fumbled so hard that
Yeah, and
It
you know what?
just
You know what?
flopped,
I
you
just
know?
realized, when Fall Guys came out, Fall Guys Twitter was active. They were always talking about, oh, check out this new
Nuts.
thing.
Tim the
Check
Tap Man
this-
thing was crazy.
Check out this new event. Check out this new skin. Check out this new stuff in the battle pass. Check out this whatever new stages, whatever. Then season 2 dropped, whatever, right? Party Animals came out. I haven't heard shit. I
No
haven't
social
seen
media
anything.
manager, nothing.
Like, no promotion, no nothing. Like, it's nowhere. No one even cares about that game. Even Among Us was all over the place. Like, I don't know, man.
I might be able to
They-
refund this game in Steam. I might have under 2 hours.
Bro, I refunded it already. The
I
fuck?
might have to.
Like,
It might have been too long, but
I'm straight.
yeah.
Like, I'm good on that.
Well,
Only
that's
because
that's my biggest flop.
Like, yeah, like I can get behind that.
Yeah. That personally was one of the games on my list. Well, because I was trying to debate in my head, like, you know, which games definitely affected me, and Party Animals was definitely one of those things. But I think it was just the most emotional damage to me because we were so invested in it, and I just felt like I would have got the same enjoyment 3 years ago. So you basically cucked me for 3 years. You know what I mean? And maybe like, you know, there was like technical reasons or legal reasons, blah blah blah, that they can't talk about, or some sort of drama, or I don't know what it was, but. I mean, the outside perspective, we don't really care, right? Like, it's just like, man, what a missed opportunity because we were ready to play with our friends. It's not a bad game by all means. Like, we have a group of people who are excited about the game. Please, by all means, keep playing the game. Like, it's, you know, but I just feel like the ship has sailed for me and for us. But yeah, man, I just felt like I'm trying in my heart to try to justify the game, and like, it is such a hard struggle with it, and it's just because it did all that damage. Like, I expect, you know, because now this game, the expectation is so much higher, right? And it doesn't quite meet that for the amount of time that it like waited. You know what I mean?
When you ghost
Like,
for 3 years and you come back, you should be ready to fucking blow that shit out the water. Like,
Yeah,
right.
they
Oh,
were
no,
not
man.
prepared at all, and
they
we still
they
haven't
just set
heard
it out and
anything.
just forgot about it.
There
Yeah.
still hasn't been anything. No news, no new content, nothing, no plan, nothing dropped afterward. It's just been just radio silent, right? Like,
Yeah.
alright. Well, who's next to present their biggest flop?
I'll go last.
Go ahead. Oh, you're gonna go last? Okay.
Mhm.
I feel like this player's gonna
so-
go off.
Mhm.
All right, so my biggest flop. So I had 3 games. One was Party Animals, which, you know, we just talked about. The other one was MK1, mostly because you know, like when I was a little kid, I used to be a very huge Mortal Kombat fan, and then for some reason, like for those of you who don't know, I was like 6 years old. I think I made a website with anonymous people over the internet, trying to figure out the you know, the second movie, the one that like sucked. But like, you know, at the time it was just like we were super excited with any news, so I would post any news on there, and like I'm fucking 7 years old or whatever. Like, and so I was like a huge Mortal Kombat fan back in the day, even more so than Street Fighter, if I'm being honest with you. But then I kind of fell out of love with it with like the 3D games because I didn't really enjoy them. And then I tried going back. I liked MK9, and then I didn't really play too much of 10, but generally it was just like I would play him for a while, and then like, I don't know, something just wasn't clicking for me, right? I mean, like, you know, so then I just pretty much just skipped Mortal Kombat for years, and then this one came about, and I was like, okay, you know what? It's been a long time. It's kind of like a reboot. You know what? Let me try to get into it. You know, let me try to say. But in the back of my thing, I was like, bro, watch this not be for me. And I played the story, and then I tried out training mode for like 2-3 hours or something like that, and then like I just didn't like how the game felt. Like it felt like, I don't know, there's some sort of input thing going on with like the back forward moves. It was super difficult to do, even though like I could do them in my sleep in literally every other MK game that there is. It just felt, I don't know, something wasn't meshing, and like I kind of was like super disappointed about it in terms of that context. So like, and then, you know, because I like fighting games. I want every single fighting game thing to succeed, and I want to like, you know, especially the games that I choose to play, to like them, you know what I mean? And, you know, I want to regain that lost love that I have for like Mortal Kombat. And then, and don't get me wrong, like I'll still watch the game for the story or whatever, but as a game, I don't know, there's something missing about it, and I couldn't really explain to you like what I don't like about it. But man, it's just kind of like, I guess that was like one of my bigger disappointments. And then the other one was this is just for me personally, and not that it's a crappy game or anything, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom for me, because I guess I was super excited to, well, I was just excited to play like a good Zelda game, and I played all the older Zelda games, and I really like the older style of Zelda gameplay, but you know, a lot of people were really enjoyed like the new style Zelda gameplay, but like there's just a lot of grievances and like quality of life stuff that just really bugged me about the game. The
physics is garbage.
Yeah,
No,
the
it's
physics.
not garbage. It's not garbage.
No, it's not garbage. But like the
It's not
physics
garbage,
is
but
probably,
fuck that shit.
is probably one of the best, you know, best things, you know, about that game. But like, there's just like, I just feel like everything's just such a pain in the ass to use, and I kind of miss the old school dungeons, and you know, like I don't know, like I don't play Zelda to like invent shit, you know, like so maybe it's just like, it's just not necessarily my cup of tea. So for me, it's just like it felt like more of the same, because I tried the other Zelda too, and I was just like, this isn't my cup of tea. Let me see. But you know, I thought maybe Tears of the Kingdom would be improvement on that, and it is, but like just not.
What was the last Zelda game you played before that?
Zelda. Probably the, was it Minish Cap? Probably the last one I played.
Hey, what the fuck?
The Capcom ones?
Okay.
Yeah.
Minish Cap? Yeah.
Well, let's see. I played the GameCube ones. I skipped the Wii ones because I didn't have a Wii, so I didn't do Twilight Princess.
Twilight Princess was GameCube too. Yeah.
I definitely.
Oh, was it?
So you didn't play Twilight Princess and the Skyward Sword, basically. Yeah.
I definitely don't argue with
I
people
didn't play
who
those.
are not into the Breath of the Wild, because it is definitely like a drastic change of the Legend of Zelda franchise, right? Like it's
I'll
like,
add on to that. The thing about that
Yeah.
for me, y'all know I've had a history of shitting on this crap, because Zelda's one of my top 3 franchises
Yeah.
of all time. Like it's my, I
can see that.
will never not love Zelda despite what direction it goes in. Like I like Breath of the Wild. Like I can't hate it, right? I can't hate Tears of the Kingdom, but I don't want it. You know what I mean? Like that's not what I particularly want from Zelda games. I don't want, I mean, to be fair though, I can't say that, because when it's done right, it's fine.
I do
like,
I do appreciate what they've done.
Playing
right?
through
Like,
Breath of the Wild the first time was great, right? But then in hindsight, I was like, damn. Then I went back and I played like Skyward Sword, and I was like, wow, that game was ridiculous for what it was on the Wii. Like that's the most underrated Zelda game of all time, because it came out like the end of the Wii life cycle, right? Nobody wanted to play with the motion controls or whatever. That's like the most underrated Zelda game of all time. So having played Breath of the Wild and going back to play that, it was like, damn, like look at how creative these dungeons are. Look at all the life in this game. Like you can tell, like when games go open world and stuff, like I feel like they kind of leave certain aspects behind. Like they want things to be more open and like what's the word? They want things to be more open. They want the game to feel more
outside
like
of the
immersive,
box,
I guess, right? Like you're in this world or whatever, which is fine, but you can do that with and still have traditional Zelda stuff in it. you can still have the traditional dungeons and the all the other stuff that you could do in the other Zelda games. You know what the biggest issue for me with the new Zelda games are, it's with games in general nowadays, is I miss old melodies in video game music.
Oh, the music.
Ocarina of Time.
I miss old melodies in video game music.
Yeah.
Like we're all caught up in this epic orchestral whatever. Like don't get me wrong, I fucking love that shit too. But I do miss having memorable pieces of music in games. And
Yes.
the only game, for some reason, the only series, well, the only 3 series that I can think of nowadays that still does that is Final Fantasy, Sonic, and fucking, wait, I think that's it. Every other game,
I mean, it used to be
has
Zelda.
gone-
Yeah.
Every other game has gone in that direction where
Well-
you can't even remember half of the music that's in the game unless you're like, oh, I'm in the mood, let me go check my YouTube playlist or whatever, and then you're like, oh wait, I remember this song. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
true.
know. I'm not a fan of that.
Music direction in
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild was more so like it was like it's one of those directions
It's
that they
very
chose to
subtle.
go. Yeah, it's one of
Like,
those directions that they
yeah.
chose to go into immerse people into gameplay because it's more responsive to you as a player than it is to like what's happening around you. And it's like, that's a direction, that's a thing you can do. Does it I mean, what they want, does it work? Yeah, it works for what they want. But
It works
it's
for the
not
people-
really
it
iconic,
works,
right?
But it's not what I want.
Yeah.
Like I
agree.
You anytime you hear the Song of Storms, you know what the fuck game that's from.
Oh, for
anytime
sure.
you hear the Song of Time, you know what game that's from. Like anytime you hear like the Song of Healing, you know what game that's from. You know what I mean? I want stuff like that where it's like I remember this song 5-10 years from now.
Yeah.
That's so, and it's weird because Breath of the Wild had a moment in the game that really it was emotional for me, but it pissed me off though, because there was a moment in the game. I'm sure everyone that played the game remembers when you get the Master Sword for the first time. You hear Fee's theme in the forest from Skyward Sword, and it's very subtle. And I was like, oh shit. Like it brought like it made me so emotional because I was like, wow, you barely hear any music throughout the whole game except for the boss fights, and then you hear that, and it's like, wow, this is what I missed from the fucking game. Because Fee's theme is one of the like most emotional themes. If you play Skyward Sword, you know the story behind like basically Zelda as a whole. That song is emotional, but
That's an
what I
interesting point
want.
actually, because I
Like-
never played Skyward Sword, but I did play Breath of the Wild, and when I played through that Master
Yeah,
Sword
hearing it
section,
without
that was
context is kinda
probably
like-
the most
Yeah.
emotional section, regardless of context, right? Like it was still,
But if,
yeah,
exactly,
It was
And
meaningful.
it's like if you could just listen to the song
yeah.
like alone, and I love that.
That's a
shit.
beautiful piece of music, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So-
and that's the thing with the Zelda franchise is that without the music, it almost loses part of its identity. You know what I mean? And like, it's a very
Because that was half of the identity of video games over a decade ago. Like, was the music. All of your favorite games, well, me personally, all of my favorite games, I can list the entire all my favorite music from. You know what I'm saying? Because it's drilled into my head. That's what melodies do. They stick, right?
Yeah.
These crazy orchestral soundtracks and big band shit, it doesn't stick the way I want it to. Like, yeah, it's memorable, but it's not something you're gonna be humming in your head. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's weird, but Zelda personally, like, I agree. I'm not gonna call it a flop though, because I did enjoy what it was. Right? Like
Yeah.
it's a flop. You're right. Yeah.
I think it depends on what
you're.
I think it depends on what you're looking for, right?
I
Like,
mean,
'cause
it's your
again,
it's
yeah.
your personal
It's a
thing.
personal
It's a
thing,
flop
right?
to
Yeah.
me because I was
yeah.
looking forward to playing it, and then I just kind of felt
agree.
like
because I played
and
it
then
for like 2
especially-
hours, 3
yeah.
hours maybe. The
Yeah,
first day,
I played it for long,
and I was like, "This is amazing." Then I had to like force myself to finish the game because I was like, "Oh man, it's a Zelda
Yeah.
game. I have to finish it off principle." But yeah,
I have an interesting, not to take things off base, but I have an interesting conversation piece. Maybe I think I mean, well, obviously yes, but like, do you think that this game, as a Zelda game, would have been better if it was on a piece of hardware, Switch 2, for example, if it was in something like a little stronger and they had much more to work with? Because I think we could have got deeper dungeons. I think we could have got like some of the things that like we wanted to in this series. No, like I think the limitations of the Switch is what hampered. Don't get me wrong, it's a phenomenal piece of work on the Switch. It is a technical masterpiece, right, on what it does on the Switch. But I think if they had more to work with, I think they could have extended on some ideas that they might have had to flesh out the universe and idea. That's just, I don't know. It's just
if it was anybody, if it was any other developer, I maybe would have agreed. But hardware doesn't hold back a game's vision. Like it can, but most of the time, especially Nintendo games, they're usually pretty good at getting their vision across despite hardware limitations. Especially like I was just talking about Twilight Princess and Skyward Sword. Skyward Sword was stuck on the Wii, and that game was amazing.
Yeah.
Like I remember at the time, everybody was like, "Wow, this is a Wii game." Like Nintendo, Nintendo's anybody else, sure, but Nintendo's usually the king of making whatever their vision is, it's gonna work on whatever their hardware is.
Yeah.
That was their vision. That's what they wanted it to be, and that's what we got.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, like, everything that I had, the issues that I had with the game were just like kind of creative decisions, like, you know, like the stamina system, the usage system, the da. It just felt like a chore to just fucking move around. It just be. And you know, for me, it was
if that game came out before Elden Ring, I would have loved it. Any open world game, RPG-esque, whatever genre it is, after Elden Ring is gonna. I'm comparing that shit. Like I'm taking a magnifying glass to that shit and saying, Elden Ring? Do I see any hints of Elden Ring? Boom, no Elden Ring. I don't want to like. That's fucked up. But like, you can tell. You can even see the influences of Elden Ring in fucking Tears of the Kingdom, because I mean, let's be real. That game got delayed like a year because of fucking Elden Ring.
I think longer
let's
than
not
that.
act like it wasn't because of Elden Ring that game got delayed.
And the thing is, like, if I'm gonna run around the open world, it's just like, well, let me at least listen to music, and then we don't even have that. Bro.
And you know what? You just realized, man. I said that, but Elden Ring didn't have like the music was memorable, but it didn't have like super crazy music outside of the boss fights, which some of them were fucking phenomenal, right? But the thing about an open world to me is I need a reason to be in this world and do stuff, right? And Elden Ring, literally every corner you turned, there was something to do. There was something there that you never saw before, right? There was fucking open a chest, get teleported randomly to some location, and you're like, oh my gosh, where am I? Right? I want, and if I'm gonna play an open world game, especially a Zelda game, because Zelda for me, that was the magic of playing Zelda, right? You figure out, because remember the formula was you go into a new area, you talk to the NPCs, you figure out what the hell is going on, you learn a new piece of music, right? And then you find out how to get into the dungeon of the area, right? And that was like figuring out how to get to the dungeons was like half of the magic for me. Like Skyward Sword did it perfectly. We're finding out how to get into the dungeon, doing all the stuff that you have to do before you even get into the dungeon was cool as hell, right? So I have a feeling hopefully the next Zelda will just be a mix of both. That's all I want. I just want a mix of both. You can have the open world, but give me the reason to do things in this big ass open world that you made for what? Especially when they added the sky area, you have the land, and then you have the shit underneath, whatever it is, in Tears of the Kingdom. And I'm like, that's great and all, but I need a reason to be in these spaces, man. I need to like open up a chest and it teleports me to hell or some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need crazy. I don't like. Let me not say I don't like open world games. I'm not the biggest fan of open world games because I don't have patience to travel from point A to point B and there be absolutely nothing to do on the way. You know what I mean?
Like get formulaic.
That's boring. Yeah, I need something to do. I have ADD like a motherfucker. So when Elden Ring came out and they fucking the game started and you literally see everything, and my mind was like, wait a minute, what the fuck? Where the fuck do I go? I go to the left, there's something over there. I go to the right, there's something over there, right? I walk forward, there's a big ass boss waiting for you, literally right in front of you. Like, why can't I have that? Why can't Zelda just be that? They already have super bosses and all that crazy shit in the game, but very few and far between. But why can't we just have more of that? Hopefully, man. Hopefully, because they did say something about the next Zelda game. I forgot what he said specifically, but he said he wanted to take.
That these were like a 2-part deal, and then the next thing would be something completely.
Yeah, it's gonna be something different.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. Because you got to think about it, right? Nintendo's pretty good at. They make the same games, but the differences between them are usually pretty substantial to call it like a new thing on its own. Like, you know what I mean? So they're usually good at taking risks. This was a risk for them. It worked. It definitely worked for them. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
It just wasn't for
the difference between this Zelda and the last Zelda is so vast, and the same thing with Mario Odyssey to what was it, Mario Galaxy, right? Like it's like
yeah.
You know, they really do a good job.
There's only so much you can do with a platformer, so that's kind of different.
For sure. Switch 2 is about to blow things off the chain, hopefully, but we'll see.
That's why I'm wondering what Metroid Prime 4 is going to be like.
You know that Zelda movie is gonna probably have a big deal to what happens with the next.
It's
game.
probably going to have a huge influence on the games moving forward. Yeah.
True.
So,
Actually, who knows, right? You never know, because we don't really see what kind of impact this Mario movie is going to have on the next 3D Mario game, right? All we've seen is that they're pushing Peach more. You know what I mean? They're doing a lot of I don't know. It just I don't really think that.
Well, we haven't seen the effect just yet. You have to wait for the next Mario game.
Yeah,
because Wonder was already in the works before that movie.
They got to make Peach playable. No, I'm talking about like them just pushing. Because I mean, let's be real. Wonder is not. Wonder doesn't count. You know what I mean? Wonder is great. It's an excellent game, but when they make 2D Mario games, they're not really held up against like their big 3D Mario games.
The 2D Mario is more, it follows more the status quo formula, whereas the 3D is more of the generational
their 3D
change,
games are,
right?
they're big budget. Like, let's put this out. This is a system seller game. Like, don't get me wrong, Mario Wonder is a system seller.
No, Mario Wonder's fucking fantastic.
They launched. Notice we haven't gotten a 3D Mario since the Switch launched.
Since Odyssey.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Next one is for Switch 2.
Like, yeah. So I don't know. I think it's weird because every console that they've made, we've only gotten one big Mario game. I think the Wii was the only one where we got two. Yeah, so that goes to show you like how important 3D Mario games are